we're talking tactics. We're talking about benefits for teammates, detriments you can create in a situation where you can't get somebody off of your wheel. Some of the future potential tests we can do is, what is that safe zone? Do they need to be really close? Can they move further back and get that same benefit? So there's a lot of interesting research that could actually be done.
In this video, we're going to be setting up two bikes with Aero sensors. It's going to be Matt's bike, which is in front of me here. This is Matt's Aero sensor, and I'm going to have on my bike an Aero sensor as well. We're going to be doing a special type of testing where we test drafting effects.
This is actually the first of its kind. We're actually testing the Aero drag or the CDA of the second rider, which will probably be you, Chris. And by the time that people are watching this video, we'll have already released this technology to our pro teams. So definitely this is good. Time to get going. Let's get kitted up.
Yeah, go. You'll see me out there.
So today in that test, we actually did a couple key positions, right? We made Matt be a little bigger, so he's a bigger block aerodynamically for you. Then we had him squish down and make you a little taller to see how a partial would affect it.
So what's happening is, if Matt's the lead rider and he's one of my teammates, he has the option to try to provide a better draft for me. And what we saw was a substantial reduction in my coefficient of drag that I normally would be experiencing being upright on the hoods in his draft. And I think we measured CDAs in around 0.18, sort of in that range. So effectively the CDA I was experiencing would be the equivalent to probably among the most elite time trial positions in the world. In terms of the level of effort that I needed to put forward. And then Matt, now we switch to the situation in terms of a competitiveness where Matt is no longer my teammate. So what he wants to do is make me suffer if I'm gonna be trying to hold this draft. And so he went down low and still was hammering away at the same, 350, 400 watts, that kind of thing. And I saw if I could hang on.
And the reality is now what's happening here is we're talking tactics. We're talking about benefits for teammates, detriments you can create in a situation where you can't get somebody off of your wheel, who's hugging your wheel. And some of the future potential tests we can do is, what is that safe zone? Do they need to be really close? Can they move further back and get that same benefit? So there's a lot of interesting research that could actually be done forward looking on this.
Absolutely, and when it comes to teams, you can certainly think about, depending on the day, if we start to experience wind yaw, and with our measurement system we capture that wind yaw, so you can start to say, well, what kind of an echelon do we need to form in order to be optimal as a group? And this is where this is going, right? Well, kind of team time trial environment.
And there's that major study that was done where they created basically a group in the wind tunnel to kind of do this. So this is actually the next step of this wind tunnel technology into the field in a real world environment of doing this. So
and in my experience, it was perceived exertion a lot harder to hold Matt's wheel as soon as he tucked down, and I maintained the same position just to be able to demonstrate those differences. It was a substantial margin harder. We also were testing later on, and we were starting to experience more wind yaws, and I started to find he was starting to gap me more. It was more difficult under gusting conditions for me to maintain that position and maintain that low drag. So these are all factors that can be tactics and strategy for teams in racing, and so the Aero sensor testing goes way beyond individuality. It becomes a team tactic in not only team time trial, but in your Fondo style road races and crits potentially.
Yeah, whether they're local or all the way to the pro, with us working with the pro teams. I do want to ask you one question, Chris. When yaw was coming into play, did you actually notice where the yaw was coming from, or you could just sense it was, but you couldn't find that sweet spot? You could just see at that point, Matt was basically creating a gap on you.
Yeah, so when I started to notice the yaw, there is a natural progression that your body wants to find that sweet spot, yes. And you try to float around and try to move to the side to find it in order to maintain that optimal spot. And so you do have this sense.
It's almost like urgency, like, yeah, oh my God, I'm losing my sweet spot.
Yeah, yeah.
And then tactics, like we're talking about, if he was a competitor, this is where he can break that, basically that advantage you're sucking the power off of his wheel.
That's the time when he could launch an attack potentially and snap that elastic band. Yeah.
So I do see that this technology that we have is starting to develop ways to actually create more breakaways, be more tactical, and because they're very strong at the pro level, they have a lot of this, but it's starting to dial it in even more. What is something that I perceived that was the zone? Maybe that zone becomes bigger or smaller. We did a lot of testing today. It was a full day. We could show you can do a lot of good testing in a day with AeroLab technology. At this point, Chris, I'm tired. I'm ready to go home. How about you?
Let's get out of here.
God.
Matt's bike, what we have here, so he's already got a sensor on it. And
oh God, I can't believe.
They're first! You're not yelling at us.
No.
Oh, good. Okay. Go ahead. Take your time. We're waiting. They're first! Go on, Matt. He was yelling at him, and that's why you're laughing. Say it gently. We gotta wait for the sun. Gotta wait for the sun again! Yeah, let's get started.
Again.
Again what?
They're first! The key to the match position is basically comfort, speed, and stability, and I'm just screwed that one up. So we're gonna start this over again. They're first!
That's right. Every walk counts.
We did that.
That's right. Every walk counts.
God!
That's right. Every walk.
They're first!
Hey Chris, look to my camera. That's a wrap. That's a wrap.